Hola. Bueno, muchas gracias a quienes vinieron puntualmente. Hey, Master, could you please turn the music off? Muchas gracias. Gracias a quienes...
We don't have the audio in the cabins of interpretation. I need the audio in the cabins. Her microphone is turned off, I believe.
Por favor, quienes están en las puertas, de pronto si pueden hacer señas para que entren quienes están afuera todavía en el café. Si no alcanzaron a ver la exposición Horizontes, véanla, no se la pierdan, está muy linda. Son fotografías de las escuelas en zonas rurales, en zonas urbanas. Es un recorrido muy bello por nuestra América Latina y el Caribe. En cualquier momento de nuestro encuentro, en los breaks, lo pueden hacer. Gracias, gracias a quienes van entrando. Por favor, tomen sus asientos rápidamente para poder continuar. Tenemos a continuación el lanzamiento del informe que va a ser transmitido vía YouTube. Entonces, como tenemos que conectarnos por streaming, necesitamos de su colaboración para poder no tener a la gente esperando.
They say that we are already connected by streaming. I'm gonna salute the people who had connected in the channels of YouTube of the World Food Program. We are sorry that we are a bit delayed in this event. You know that these things can happen, and we thank for your wait. And don't miss what is coming, because it's now the launching of the report of the school feeding state of Latin America and Caribbean. The channels of the IDB and the WFP, thank you for being here. Now the delegations are getting back to the meeting after a brief coffee break, and we're gonna wait a couple of minutes for them to come back to their places so that we can present and make the launching of the report. This is one of the two that we're bringing today. I'd like to remind the people who are here that they should choose two delegates for the discussions of the two declarations that will be done. They should be registered outside the secretariat table, and after we meet the meeting today and tomorrow, they have to get together in meeting room 108. One of the groups will be on the second floor and one in this floor. For the document, the declaration of the coalition, we're gonna need one representative of each of the 17 countries who signed the coalition already. And for the declaration of the event, we're gonna need one representative for each country present here today. Can we start now? So I'm gonna start calling our panelists. Again, I would like to thank the people who are connected by streaming and the channels of World Food Program and Inter-American Development Bank. This session will be moderated by Lola Castro, Regional Director of World Food Program. You already saw her in the opening remarks. I invite Lola to move on with the launch of the report. Please, a round of applause again. Thank you, Claudia. And well, this is a very important session because we're going to launch the report of school feeding in Latin America and Caribbean. You know that we know that this program is one of the most important programs in the region. And we mentioned already that some programs, some countries have the most successful programs in the world, such as Brazil, Colombia, and some other countries. Without further ado, this session, I'd like to thank our colleagues from CEPAL, FAO, UNESCO, UNICEF, the Indigenous Alliance for Biodiversity, who had worked with the World Food Program and IDB for this great result. This study, without further ado, let's receive the two presenters, the authors, more than presenters, who will present the studies, Evane Tamagnan from IDB and Sarah Kohnstamm from World Food Program, who both of you will present. And I'd like to invite also the member of the editing regional, Gary Gonille, that is the editor of the publication. Invite Daniela Godoy, Senior Policy Officer, the United States Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. Also, Mary Guinn Delaney, Regional Advisor in Health, Education, UNESCO for Latin American and Caribbean. Welcome, the three of you.
Last but not least, I also want
to give
Directora Junta del Global Child Nutrition Foundation, who is going to do some announcements, que va a hacer algunos.
Deputy Director of Global Child Nutrition Foundation, who gives some announcements. And to conclude, sorry, I'm mixing the English and Spanish.
Who is the director of the Consortium of Investigation of the Global Coalition of School Meals. Dawn, thank you for being with us. Great to have you. Welcome. And without further ado, we're going...
Sem mais atrasos.
Presentation. And the presentation will be run by Evane Tamagnan from the BID and Sarah Kohnstamm. And please, go ahead. And we are going to have a presentation for around 15 to 20 minutes, a very important study. They will unpack it for us. Thank you. Vamos.
Ok. Buenos días a todos y todas.
Good morning, everybody, to include in French also. It's a pleasure to be here to present the first study report of the state of school feeding of Latin America and Caribbean. This brings the state of the situation with a special focus on the impact of COVID-19 to these programs. The first key program is that today and after pandemics, the programs of school feeding had restarted in all schools in the region. This report showed that in 2022, 18 million children were benefited from school feeding programs in the region. Latin America and Caribbean is the second region with greater number of children fed in the whole world. Most of them, these children, live in the South America, 73.2 million, followed by Central American by 13.3 million children, and Caribbean, 3.8 million. The adaptation of this school feeding programs, this pandemics got almost 165 million students out of school, and the programs made the transitions of food in schools so that they could have food to take home. We also saw that these programs helped to bring back the children to schools eventually. This really shows the importance of school feeding programs in crisis, such as a pandemic, natural disasters, or other types of disasters. Even with the crisis, the political commitment of the investments of national programs of school feedings keep being significant. This means that the regional investment is $7.6 billion. At least 19 countries of the region count with a law or a policy of food nutrition or school feeding. There's also good news. More and more countries are more sensible to nutrition and health. The most current policies are related to local agriculture production. The national budgets are the 99% of the funds destined by the school feeding programs. Some of those countries of the region also coordinate their efforts through multi-sectoral platforms. Another indication of the political commitment in this region is 17 countries have get together in the Coalition for School Feeding. The coalition is an international forum where these countries commit themselves to improve their programs and to support the programs. The coalition counts with several branches also related to research and financing. This coalition started only 2 years ago. There is a great political interest to guarantee the commitment with the national programs of school feeding. We already mentioned the most important axes of the publication. The political commitment is significant in the region. However, we still have inequalities among the countries, the ones who have more resources and the ones who have less. And within a country, in terms of annual costs, school feeding varies a lot in the region. As we can see, the cost by child, 293% more than countries medium, low, and low. There are less than $100 per child. In the publication, we also see data on the coverage of the programs. In general, the panorama is positive. More of the countries have coverage that is over 90%, and most of them have better coverage in the regions, such as Brazil. However, the other half of the country is variable. The range of coverage goes from 30 to 100%, but coverage is only one part of the story. When you see the interior of each country, you can consider other aspects. Quality of the food, if they cover all of them or not, the number of days they offer food, the limitations of financial aspects can produce some limitations of aspects of the programs as well. Some programs get to all schools but provide food for half day of the children who are there in the school. Some programs include the most vulnerable population with nutritional specific needs. As we can see, this is a positive aspect that shows the programs of health that are related to school feeding programs. One important risk is that these programs serve as platforms for other programs of health and social assistance. And most countries offer services of health within these programs of school feeding, and they are all integrated. There is a great potential, and they all go through the school feeding programs. And finally, the important thing that we have to guarantee is to guarantee the children, these programs reach the most vulnerable children. In all Latin America and Caribbean, almost up to 12 million of children, adolescents, and youngsters are outside the education system. The education future have 12 million children from 4 to 17 years in areas that we didn't mention. This shows the urgency to apply efficient strategies to avoid school abandonment. If the region is pioneer in school feeding, we have to guarantee the support to these children, especially the most vulnerable. We cannot finish this presentation without special information on this, on intercultural information related to school feeding. The problems in school feeding can be platforms and points of entrance to get to questions that are more ample related to right to development, nutrition, and identity. We need to recognize the region that has steps towards an integrated and intercultural focus. And to conclude, in the name of the people of the publication, I'd like to thank and recognize the dedication and work of the authors, as well as members of the editorial council. We are very happy to launch the publication here in your presence. Thank you very much. Thank you, Marie and Sarah, for this presentation. Actually, it really managed to summarize a huge work in very few slides and details that are impressive. This was possible due to the people who I have here on my right. It was the editorial council that supported to guarantee that this result that you have today can be used in policies and implementation in the future. So I would like to ask the editorial council to give us some ideas. What is the future? What it's going to do? And tell us how how the organization is working intensely to guarantee that school feeding is accessible in the whole area, the whole region. I'm gonna call Mr. Gary Conley from UNICEF to make the presentation.
First, congratulations to WFP and the IADB, and of course, all the organizations that was involved. What I think to be a very relevant and extremely useful report. It highlights, in my view, the importance of the capacity of governments to adjust during the COVID period, which I think is extremely useful when you consider a region that's extremely vulnerable to all types of shocks and emergencies, and it gets us thinking about, the implications of the lessons that we've learned in this flexibility when governments and countries will inevitably face other shocks. We have in 2022 over 1.5 million children that were victims of some type of emergency. It highlights the strategic importance that the governments, the commitment of the governments to the programs, because of course it reminds us that really overwhelmingly most governments in the regions do have programs to address school feeding. And I see this as an incredible opportunity for us to build on the systems that governments are able to put in place so that we can broaden both the coalition and the approach to addressing all sorts of issues that deal with schooling. And it points out the very important fact, something we've known for a while in our region, that we are dealing with inequalities and still millions of children are left behind and we need to do better. But a few points that caught my attention I want to share with you. Obviously, the immediate benefit of school feeding, we all know nutritious foods, healthy food to children. But beyond that, it has to be, we have good indication that good school feeding programs actually improve performance. They improve they reduce dropout rates. They improve learning. Yes, they promote healthy eating and good hygiene habits. They also promote the local economy because you're investing in farmers. So obviously the report reminds us that overwhelmingly a good school feeding program will affect the well-being of children, the immediate family, to a broader extent, the community. And when implemented well, has lasting impact on the overall life of the individuals. So of course, at UNICEF, we're extremely happy to be associated with the programs in the different countries. And we're very much committed to continue to work alongside WFP and our partners to make sure that we can address the issues of inequalities, that we can extend our programs to the most vulnerable, that we're providing this integrated approach, that we're using school feeding to provide a platform for more integrated and comprehensive approach. And that we're learning, of course, from the experience and the flexibility that we showed during the COVID era. So really, thank you for this. This is really well done.
Thank you very much, Gary. And really a model of coordination and cooperation, UNICEF and all the governments in the region and with the other agencies, how we work together towards quality of education. And this is one of the pieces that helps on quality of education. Thank you very much, Gary. Excellent. And let me pass the word now, if you can pass the mic. Vamos a pasar la palabra a Daniela.
Para a Daniela, to Daniel, this is our public policy superior for FWP. Wow, that's worked, so this report would be ready. Thank you very much, Lola. I would like to congratulate the organization for this important publishment to improve the school feeding. I would like to start mention that, according was mentioned in the previous section, the prevalence of food insecurity decreased between 2021 and 2022 in the region. That not happened in other regions, but it happens for a lot of reasons. The social protection measurements that were mentioned. So thinking about the measurements in the school feeding programs. We have a lot of challenges that were shared in the document. For example, the prevalence of the food insecurity or severe is under the world estimative. The American Latin and Caribbean has a higher cost, mainly because of what happened in Caribbean country. And also women present more food insecurity than men. That's something that we cannot not notice. So in that sense, we have important evidence in their impact in the agro-feeding system and the nutrition indicators in all its ways. The samples of the report is what I want to highlight. So in that sense, in FAO, I would like to say that the cooperation that we have Brazil, FAO, and through 14 years is working through the sharing of experience based on Brazil's experience with different state members. And I would like to highlight two initiatives. First of all, the feeding network that has 20 countries from the regions and allowed to exchange experiences and make the public policy dialogue to create capacity to strengthen not only the governance system, but the school community and advance to programs that would be more efficient in the region, and to highlight the methodology of the sustainable school. And it's based in the reality of the different countries that are in this cooperation, in this reality in the area. And some components that I would like to highlight that could be opportunities that are presented so we can advance in the adequate way, and also to go forward in the goals, as Lola mentioned before. The first component is about the governance and the importance of the intersectoral cooperation that we are treating on this event, and something that we can highlight in the sustainable development, and the relevance to incorporate the participation of the community and space to generate an intercultural space. That's important to potentialize the effect of the school feeding programs. Third place, the way-throughs. The menu should include nutritional food, micro and micro nutritional elements, and to remember the physical economical access to a favorable diet is based in these programs to millions of boys and girls of our area. And this menu should somehow to be adequated in the feed guiding in the different food of the countries. A lot of region has these guidelines, and it's important that these food that are produced in the area and that allowed us to have acceptability by the children. And at last, very important, the public purchase. So it allows to accelerate to have fresh and nutritional food to the children. Excellent. So we can see as FAO contribute not only to the report and to the programs. Thank you, Daniela, again. Let's take the word to our third guest. It's so good to have you here. Guinn, Regional Assessor from UNESCO, another UN organization that's very important. Welcome, it's so important to have you here. I join myself to greet all the team from the Food World Program and Obid. I thank for the opportunity to contribute at this moment. I do not believe that's necessary to convince anyone. The cognitive development, the access and the permanence to the formal education. So it's a good moment to highlight the intersectionality of that elements. I'd like to go forward a little more. The resources that the programs show its importance to highlight another possibilities that these programs create, not only to make the access easier to the food, but also to create arguments to learn about food and through it. The education and nutrition is a very important component in the education and health. And another themes that aren't trained and support that they need in the class and in the curriculum. The local scholar context and the school professionals need support to integrate content about the food in the other items that they deliver. For example, processes, the chemistry process, the life of the plant, or nutritional content. A health diet in social sciences, we can add to a history aspect of the interculture, could be exempt and think critically in the industry that manufacture the food. We have to ensure that all the students can recognize the inequalities that are showed in the nutrition in all its ways. So as long as we are concerned by the loss of learning, we also can what we know that works to advance in the educational contents in this sense. And also to make a commercial break to the special chapter about intercultural areas. That would be a session on Thursday at 2 p.m. That's another example of what we can use from these programs. Not only to ensure that the service reach the groups that need, and we can have also contribute with this report. So now I'm going to request to Erica, the group director, so we can have an information.
To listen to these important lessons. One of the reasons these lessons and messages are so important is because
São importantes. Que essas mensagens são tão importantes é porque elas são impulsionadas por dados, os seus dados. A pesquisa global nas escolas é uma coleção de dados importante, representa o primeiro tentativa bem-sucedida, informação detalhada nos programas escolares e atividades diretamente do governo e ao redor de todo o mundo numa base garantida. Um dos países que participaram nos primeiros duas rodadas, apoiando e fornecendo a fundação para relatório.
I am here to specifically thank the 23 countries of the region, which represent 70% of the countries in this region, and for participating in past surveys, and to invite every country represented here today to participate in the third round of the global survey, which will begin in November. The survey will ask you questions about the 2022 school year, the first year of global data collected since the inception of the School Meals Coalition. This data is just becoming available now. You will receive information to confirm your country's participation from the conference organizers. The survey is hard, and you might not have all the answers, and that's okay. You can finish it over a period of time, check in with other ministries and other partners, and the survey itself can even help you think about what type of data you might want to collect in the future. So for example, we ask how many jobs are created by the school meal program, exactly how you support smallholder farmers, if so, and how you manage food and packaging waste. These may not be data points that you're currently collecting, but over time, if governments begin to collect these data, the multi-sectoral benefits of school feeding for your country will become even clearer. I'd also like to thank the World Food Program and the Inter-America Development Bank for helping to bring this data to light and crafting key messages that ensure we're all working towards a path where children are supported by a nutritious school meal.
Muchas gracias. Entonces,
And now, the global coalition to school feeding, we have 70 countries that register, and we can see that the data, we have 23 countries. Let's see if you can leave this conference with better numbers. I'm sure that we are going to be able to do that. And before to give the floor to the research, Don Bundy, the Consortium Director of the Coalition of Research and Feeding, School Feeding, with all the data and information that's going to give the last comment of this event, this session. Muito obrigado por nos...
Lola asked me if I could bring a sort of global perspective to talking about the report. And so I'm just going to wrap up, I hope quite quickly, talking about two things. One is the importance of the report, and secondly, what I think are three key messages about going forward with the report. So first on the importance, we've already heard from my colleagues at UNICEF, FAO, and UNESCO about the crucial issues. But I just want to say that, you know, I've read this report from cover to cover. That's the job of a peer reviewer. That's what I was asked to do. And the first note I jotted down was, this is the most comprehensive and complete current treatment available on this topic. It fills an important gap in the world's literature on school meals. I wrote that then, I absolutely think that now, and everything I've heard reinforces that. It's really important. What's happened in Latin America and the Caribbean is really important. You feed 80 million children every day. 80 million children. That's at least a fifth, 1 in 5, of the world's children that are fed in schools. And if we take India and China out of the equation, which I think we should, it's almost a third of the world's children that are fed in schools. You have tremendous experience to share with other people. And that's what very much struck me when I looked at the report. The report is not simply a regional version of the worldwide report that the World Food Program publishes every 2 years. It is very specifically about this region, and you're to be congratulated on that strength. 3 issues I wanted to highlight going forward. The first was related to what I've just said. This is a really good report, and it's very important, not just within the region, it's important globally. I do think you should make best efforts to ensure that the report is made available internationally and that people can access it. Maybe the School Meals Coalition could be an important partner in thinking about that. The second point I wanted to make was that this report emphasizes how important it is to collect the numbers, just as we were hearing from Heidi, to collect the numbers, to be very precise in tracking. And what's happening as we move forward is that there is a new initiative from the School Meals Coalition, an initiative called the Data and Monitoring Initiative, which is seeking to create a global database. And I think it's very important that all of the countries in this region that have been taking part in this, in the reports so far, also help co-create that database, that new initiative, as we go forward. And then the final part, and this is again something that we've heard from others on this platform this morning, in fact, from the very beginnings of the discussion this morning, and that is the importance of school meals in addressing issues around climate, ecology, the environment, agrobiodiversity, food sovereignty, indigenous foods. All of these things have emerged as vitally important areas which school meals can address, because school meals are one of the largest publicly managed food systems. These are food systems that the governments, that you all, actually control the policy on. And I think the big challenge as we move forward will be to see how best to do that. And let me say that globally, that's a real preoccupation. And people talk a lot about Brazil in particular, and the 30%, the requirement that 30% of school meals food is procured from family farmers, is homegrown school meals. That's a figure I think that many other countries want to emulate. I'm just highlighting Brazil. I know there are other countries where, in this region, where there's also that kind of experience to be learned from. So I think that was the third point going forward, that's going to be a key point as you look to the future of the reports. So my final job to wrap up is to say congratulations. This is something to be proud of. It's proud. You should all feel proud as contributors, and everyone on the platform should feel proud as producers. So thank you very much.
Muchas gracias, Don, y creo que
I believe we can end with a round of applause with that. You have a QR code in your bags, so join in all the ways. So I thank you all. Excellent presentations. It were important information. So let's continue to work. Thank you very much. Pode pegar.
As a round of applause for these panelists. Thank you for your presentation, for the presentation of this wonderful and very useful study. Thank you very much. Now we can continue. Let's start on that section number 3. Is Coalition for School Feeding Commitments and Opportunities for Latin America and Caribbean. I'd like to invite Carmen Burbano, Director of the Division of School Program of WFP and Chief of Secretariat of Coalition of School Feeding,